So welcome to the Auto Hub Show. So go ahead, Jeff.
Welcome, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Nice December 7th morning, wherever you are, depending where you are. One of our guests from lovely Florida, that's Joe, and see somebody joining us from Texas, and the rest of many of the people I think are freezing up here in Canada. Well, out in the West Coast, we're okay. So thank you for joining us, and welcome to the Auto Hub Show, which is today, which is special events and year-ends promotion show. And not like we put on the picture, but that's okay. We have some books that we always like to promote some books, which means stuff. There's Car Business 101, Crazy What Car Dealers Do by a former guest of ours, Max Zanin. And Remarkable Retail by Steve Dennis, which is just general retail, which is certainly one of our guests. Joe has a general retail background, is not just car specific. And Like I See It, Obstacles and Opportunities Shaping the Future of Retail Automotive by Dale Pollack, who's well known in the automotive industry. And of course, as always, we just let everybody know the views of our guests are the views of them and do not necessarily reflect our official policy or position here. And this disclaimer is on our website if you'd like to read it more in depth. This is sort of like the agreement you click on when you download software. And of course, joining us today are three gentlemen. We have Jeff Williams from Absolute Results, private sale training here. Brian Maxwell, a sales trainer who's feeling a little rough today, but he's certainly happy to join us. And we thank Brian. He'll be joining us via audio. And Joe Peachy. Is it Peachy or PC? I'm not sure, Joe.
Peachy.
From Peachy, I figured. From Peachy in Florida. So first of all, Jeff Williams, please introduce yourself and give us a brief intro.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Ian and Jeff. It's a pleasure to be on your show and talk about events. Certainly something we know a little bit about. I started my company, Absolute Results, 24 years ago, and actually started my friend's garage in Victoria, BC. And the business has grown quite substantially over the years. Right now, we run appointment-driven events in about 26 countries. We've got about 120 trainers, 120 office staff, and any given year we do about 5,800 events and help dealers sell about 94,000 cars. Now, this year was a little different, of course. Like all years, we still had a good and innovative year this year. So certainly we're experienced in the event business.
Terrific. Thank you so much for being here. Joe, how about yourself?
Well, I have a speaking, coaching, training, consulting company, and I work on the other side of it. I do a lot of work with the in-house people with sales training to drive their events, to get more people to their events. So I work with skills. I work with tactical sales training, where I get people on the phone in real time, bringing people to events, bringing people on site. So I'm not industry specific because I'm more tactical sales based.
Fabulous. That's great. We always like to have different viewpoints here because retail is definitely retail and just depends if it's on 4 wheels, 2 wheels, or sits in your living room. So thank you. And finally, last but not least, Brian Maxwell, automotive sales trainer who trains people to sell like professionals. Brian, thanks for attending us and appreciate that you're not feeling well. Thanks for being here.
Hey, I appreciate you guys for inviting me. And I apologize to everybody. Yeah, I got bit by some bug and it hit me really hard yesterday, but I wanted to make sure I made the show. So typically I would be on video. If anybody see me on YouTube or LinkedIn, Brian Maxwell, I'm always high energy, but thank you for having me, man.
Thank you. So gentlemen, we'll get right into the questions. And being that, we're talking about year-end promotions, et cetera, our industry, and I imagine all retail has gone through enormous changes this year. Of course, due to the word I don't like to say anymore, but and of course, got a huge increase in online buying, and the in-store experience has totally changed. Is there any validity or value in having year-end and events and promotions because of this? And we'll just start with Jeff, just because he hadn't spoken for about 37 seconds.
Well, you know what? I think it's at any given time, we can just take a cue from leaders in the retailing period. You know, I share with some of my team when I was on a conference call with my Australian team on Saturday, who is the biggest retailer in the world? They're Amazon, right? Does Amazon have events? Absolutely. They have Prime Days. Think about Apple. I was on Apple's website last night, you know, and I was reading words on their website. Don't miss out. Get your holiday gift. Just released. So, I mean, you could be a skeptic and say, is that really an event? But an offer with a call to action and a time limit sounds like an event to me. So I think if we're taking cues from the biggest leaders in retail around the world, then certainly, you know, events have their merit. You know, I think back this past Saturday, if you want a real recent example, this past Saturday alone in the south of France, my team helped a Renault dealer sell 50 cars in one day. My team helped a dealer in New Jersey, a BMW store, sell 36 cars. My team helped a dealer in Saskatchewan sell 21 cars with 5 salespeople. And we helped a dealer in Australia have their biggest sale day, oldest Mercedes-Benz dealer in the country, have their biggest sale day in recorded history. So is there a place for events? Well, they're still working, and the biggest retailers are doing them. You know, so I think they really are important. Selfishly for dealers, they give a boost in momentum. They give a story of a sale to rally their team around. And customers, well, customers always like to know there's a deal or something special or limited availability or something exclusive they can participate in. So I think when you weave those pieces together, they give us a pretty compelling evidence to the value of events.
Terrific. You know, I have to say something I love to do is ask Americans to say Saskatchewan. So, Joe, maybe you could answer us there and say Saskatchewan.
You know, I agree with Jeff. I mean, anytime you have something with a timeline on it, it's an event. I think when I'm training people in sales, if they lack putting a timeline on something, they're missing the boat because that's an event. One thing that I believe when it comes to events, I think a lot of it starts from what are you doing to get people aware of the events? You know, in this virtual world, so much has gotten confused out there. Virtual selling should not lose closing ratio. It's basically a process. And I think some people, not me, have charisma and talent. So when I'm working with a company and individuals, I'm more about processes, communications, and skills, and then getting a mass. So what I like to do, what I've done with one of my clients, actually they're nationwide now, is we do a live call out. We take all the salespeople and we run a promotion in-house for the people who are going to kick off a promotion out of the house. And so we put as much emphasis on, hey, if we do a mass call, if we have, you know, let's say you have 10 stores and they have a total of 25 sales reps and they all commit to 50 to 100 phone calls 5 days in a row. Do the math. You're going to drive people to your event. You're going to drive them. But the one thing Jeff said that I think he hit right between the eyes, it's got to have a timeline. You have to have a start and you have to have a finish, and people have to feel like they're missing something if they don't purchase in that window. I read an article many years ago. 85% of people will make a purchase because they don't want to lose something versus for the possibility of gaining something. So anytime I think people see the window is closing, you can increase sales.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Very good points there. And Brian's had to run off for a minute. He'll come back. When he comes back, I promise I'll ask him to say Saskatchewan. Ian, if you could take over from there.
Sure. What would you suggest would be the most effective year-end way to make sure the year-end push happens this year? And we can start with Jeff, I guess.
Right. Well, you know, the key to any event, it's always been around the story. All right. And a truth-based story at that. You know, we teach sales managers. I was in Switzerland back in October training about 120 sales managers for a large dealer group. And one of the things I taught them was, It was how do you start every month? And start every month with a what's changed plan and what's changed analysis of your business, what's changed with the market, what's changed with your product, what's changed with the offers. And you take that what's changed analysis of your market, sit down with your team, build selling stories together, and then bring those to your customers. So when you take that what's changed concept, and it's the end of the year, we know all the manufacturers have different promotions and offers out there. So when you can really convey a succinct and effective story about what's changed in the market, and then take that to a piece of your customer base first and reach out, and then take it to the marketplace, whether it be the leads you already have in your CRM or leads that are being generated on a day-by-day basis. So I think that the ability to create that story around what's changed gives you the authenticity and the truth behind your marketing. And then you can simply customize that to the customer by having what we call an intelligent conversation.
Thanks for that, Joe.
Well, I think just like Jeff said, messaging is the key. Okay, I believe messaging is very important, and so I think just like Jeff said, you got to pull your sales team together. You got to make sure everybody is singing off the same sheet of paper. And so I like to start with the value proposition. I always like to start with the end in mind. I think about the client and what's best for them, what's in it for them. And so all of the messaging, whether it's marketing, whether it's sales, whether it's billboards, whatever it is, business cards, starts with value propositions. At the end of the day, it's what's in it for the client. And then we back it up with, like Jeff said, the uniqueness and the story. So I think in this time, messaging cuts through everything. I don't care if it's viruses, I don't care what it is, clear messaging and point of contact with your client. Because look, sales is sales. It's leads, contact, and then appointments. And whatever your methodology is to get there, that's still going to drive more sales.
All right. And is Brian back or no?
Nope, Brian's not back yet. I think he had to take a call. So
Okay, no worries.
that's okay. That's the beauty of Zoom, man.
Sure. If I could just pull on something that Joe spoke about there. Joe, you just talked about customer experience, and you talked about, that's one of the things that I'm really a believer in. I've been focusing and instructing my team to focus more on the customer experience than the offer. And I think as we go into this new kind of way of selling, where it's a combination of virtual selling or and showroom selling, at least in the car business, it's about your ability to engage with customers, right? Set up the appointment. And, Joe talks about appointments, and everything Absolute Results does is about appointments and helping dealers create an appointment culture. It is all about appointments. So when you can have an engaged conversation with a customer to set that appointment up, you're right, Joe, your closing ratio won't go down because you've actually got the opportunity to prepare, right? And it starts, like you spoke about, before the sale even begins. Have we prepared our team? Does our team know the story of the sale and the why? And then once we've got that messaging created, how do we shift so we're not just yelling at the customer? We're not just blasting with a generic message, but we find a unique way that we can engage with a customer, and we can kind of unlock their why, their what's changed. And then we can weave their why into the offers that are available, the product that's available, what's changed in the market. So now it becomes a customer-centric process. It's not just a marketing campaign. When you've done that, which obviously, Joe, thanks for sharing that, you are able to be so focused and really focus on that customer experience.
We have very few no-shows or cancellations with our clients for this reason. The reason for the appointment, the reason they're coming on the lot, so to speak, it's their idea. Okay? All this overcoming objections, all this, you say this, they say that. At the end of the day, if what's in it for the client, if we are client-centric, LinkedIn 35% of our business comes from LinkedIn. And I'm not talking about inbound. I use it outbound. Okay, I get it offline and pick up the phone. But they said, your LinkedIn profile is different. It's not about you. It's about your client. So anything that comes, when we work with people and individuals and companies, we want to teach them everything that comes out of their mouth, everything that people see is about the client. You get less no-shows, you get less cancellations. And when they show up, then it's time to get into what you were talking, more consultative questions. You know, one of my clients is R&R Tire Express. And so we increased our foot volume by 79% in 1 year, franchise. Well, I said to them, what do you say when people walk on the lot? Well, you've got these tires. I said, have you ever thought about reaching out your hand and saying, hey, my name is Joe, your name? Yeah. What brought you here today? And they'll tell you. And when buying tires, what's your biggest concern? And they looked at me like I was Einstein. No, that's the question you're supposed to ask. But see, we've become a very transactional selling society, and consultative sales will reduce no-shows and increase closing ratio.
Well, there's a
It's
really
very
interesting
interesting.
study. There's a really interesting study. I don't know if everyone's seen it, but there's a company out of Boston called Pegasystems. They're a high-tech company, and they just released a study, a global study on customer experience and selling today in the globe. And the thing that was really interesting that I got from the study, and if anyone's interested, they can send me an email. Happy to send it to them. Was it was all about customizing the communication to what that customer wants.
Absolutely.
So I think the mistake a lot of different retailers make is they either a lead comes in or someone has a phone call and they respond via phone, they respond via text, or respond via email, but they don't ask the customer, how would you want us to communicate with you? And the numbers were stark as opposed to, especially by generation. So really interesting data for sure. Anyway.
I just did a podcast. If you don't mind, my podcast is called Sales Edge. It's on all the podcasts. But I just did a podcast that'll come out this week, the difference between transactional and consultative selling. And it's exactly what Jeff has said, what you've said, what I've said. You know, it's about the clients, about asking probing questions.
You know, I'll just share a little. Oh, sorry, Jeff, carry on.
No, not a problem at all. Hey, it's your show. I'm just trying to fill in gaps.
Something I instructed my team about 18 months ago. It was funny. A bunch of my trainers were saying, okay, Jeff, you know, we're out in the field there. We need to train objection handling skills. And we have these intelligent word tracks and acronyms we train just to spark conversation. Kind of came out of about five years when we said, it's not about a script. We tore up all the scripts. We said, it's about dialogue. You need to be able to engage customers and bounce back and forth in conversation. So we had these intelligent word tracks and we've trained them, you know, based around, you know, how to tell a story of a sale. And my trainers were coming and saying, Jeff, we need some objection handling skills. And they wanted acronyms to overcome objections. And I just said to my team, I said, guys, something about that doesn't sound right. Something about that sounds too old school. And then I don't know when it came to me, I was on a plane somewhere probably, and it just hit me. You'll love this, Joe. You'll only get an objection when you don't have connection. You only get an objection when you don't have connection. The key isn't overcoming objections. The key is connecting with the customer. And so we came up with these intelligent word tracks. We actually called it a U-Cube based around you, the customer. Mr. Customer, just calling to see if your current vehicle is still best for you. Mr. Customer, I'm just calling because customers just like you have recently come into our store and they've had an upgrade opportunity and it's really, really worked well for them. And I just want to connect with you, the customer. So when you begin, as Joe talked about, go from that transactional mindset and that transactional focus to a more of a relational connection focus. And you'll be amazed how often your customers will respond and engage.
I will also recommend for all of your audience and all of people out there, I don't care what communication style you decide to learn. I don't care if it's Myers-Briggs, animals, colors, disc. We better, you never say you, we better get better at communicating with people. In our training, we teach how you sell to the different behavior styles because each behavior style processes differently. And if you learn how to understand communication styles, you can sell to their processing style, which will increase closing ratios. Sales is an art.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's very funny too, Jeff. I picked up something you said earlier because your points are so spot on, everybody. But, you know, Jeff, I know you built your business on the fact that dealers would have promotion and put a sale out and the customer would walk in and the salesperson would just greet them like it was a normal day. And they never really pushed the point out of the promotions. And so things have changed. And of course, I know that, having somebody that sits there and greets people, which of course your people do, and I've used your people and very successfully. And instead of them coming up and the person just greeting them with the canned, what brings you here to us today? Or, of course, can I help you? Which never happens, I know, in the States. Never happens. Only in
No,
Canada.
not everybody's perfect in the United States.
Exactly. Oh, boy. Moving right along, guys. So our industry, the car industry, has gone through a lot of enormous changes. Sorry, excuse me. I went like, what the heck am I doing? I'm reading the wrong one here, man.
We're talking about bonuses and discounts now, actually.
Bonuses and discounts. Yeah, what do you think's more effective, bonuses or discounts? And let's go with Joe.
I'm not real big on discounts. Uh, I think you got to be careful how quickly you drop your price, because then people always play that to you. I think there's a time and a place to run specials. I like to call them special promotions. I don't like to call them discounts. Okay. And I think they have to have a tight window. But I still believe in selling value, selling results, selling benefits. And the better you are at that. Now, I believe marketing is better for the discounts and the bonuses. But when it comes to sales, I think, and I would say Jeff probably has more experience when it comes to the car industry. Okay. Uh, what's it? Technique oriented, skills oriented. I train with a lot of industries. So I'm going to opt to Jeff. I'm going to turn this over to Jeff because I know he's got a lot more experience when it comes to discounts and bonuses.
Well, thank you, Joe. I've been really instructing my team to help our clients focus on the customer experience more than the offer. Talk about how the product will help that customer and identify what their needs. Because if the customer doesn't have a need and we haven't uncovered a need, what is the discount going to do except maybe erode our brand, right? And erode our value and cause us from the beginning to focus on the wrong thing, focus simply on the price. Now, certainly we need a story, we need a value equation for customers. And during our events, my trainers will always say to customers, Mr. Customer, you are always going to get a good deal. You always will from our dealership, whether you buy today, next week, next month. Certainly. Now, was the deal a little bit better today? Sure, it's a little bit better today. And let me explain why. And then have a conversation about the customer's needs to find out if that's even relevant to the customer and to find out what is relevant to a customer. Because when we do that, when we can help our people shift, if we don't, and all we do is focus on the deal, we fall into the trap, that, gosh, I learned 25 years ago, we call it the customer and training cycle, where the customer basically untrains our salespeople that it's all about price. It's not about product and selection. And don't we all know the number one job of any sales professional is selection, period, end of story. We don't have the right vehicle, we're not going to sell them a car, or we shouldn't sell them a car. So, why would we accelerate the customer and training cycle where it's price? Certainly, we do need to have a value proposition. We need to have a statement of confidence and a bold statement that we're a volume player in the market. We believe in giving customers a great experience, and certainly a component of that is making sure that we have a great offer for our customers, that we make the vehicle affordable, that we tailor it to their needs, that we personalize the proposal we put together for them.
Absolutely.
Certainly, it all starts with their needs.
Yeah, and I have what I train my clients on, and please, I'm not a rocket scientist. You understand? I'm not. I can do this in 5 minutes. I can do it as long as you need, but I have a 5-step process for selling, and I don't care what the product is. I don't care what the service is. First, you find out what's important to them, what they want. You find out what their concerns are, and you establish a timeline. The second one is you reiterate and clarify and repeat back to them, because nobody repeats back to them. So you validate them. Then you talk about your uniqueness. And that's what absolutely allows you to charge more or not always have to charge less. Your uniqueness is what really separates you from your competition. Then we go into the actual product. Then we have the call to action. Now, When I started selling that way, my closing ratios went into the 90 percentile. And it works in every industry, in every product, because again, clients can follow a process. They cannot follow charisma.
Mhm.
Jeff
we had
has no
a comment.
charisma.
We had a comment on that actually from Stephen Granger about preparation. He said that in my first job selling copiers, who makes the most money? People answered doctors and lawyers. How much time does a doctor lawyer study to become a doctor lawyer? And what he said is, well, if I studied as much and got down my process, I'd make more than a doctor lawyer makes. And I think that really plays to what you said, Joe. You have to have a process. You gotta train it. You gotta work it every day, and you've got to get better over time. And I think in sales, sometimes we fall back to the classic road to the sale in automotive or whatever industry, and we don't really think outside the box enough. And I
Well,
think
I think
today that's meant that you'd have to think a little bit more outside the box because of the way customers are wanting to do more of that remotely than they ever have before.
well, sales, as we all know, is a profession. It's a good profession, and salespeople have to view themselves as professionals and do the preparation work and do their homework. Sometimes salespeople, they go to one Dale Carnegie class and they think they're set for life, and yet training is the number one thing sales professionals need.
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure. It's ongoing, and that's one thing. I'm glad you mentioned that because it's we all think we go to a training session, and of course Jeff's people are actually trainers when they go to the dealership. They don't just take over, but that's something we do. We take our training, and then we say, okay, I'm ready to go to the world. I spent 2 hours watching this guy or 2 days in that course, and I can take it on. And 6 months later, they're all back doing 6 months, 6 days. They're back doing the same thing. So moving right along, everybody. Brian still hasn't been able to come back yet. But what's better? Year-end keyword searches, paid searches, or geotagging? Doing the online world.
You know,
You
I'm,
know,
I'm gonna, I'm
there's a
gonna
lot of people that are experts when it comes to digital marketing, and certainly we have a digital marketing team at Absolute Results that works with stores. What I'm hearing more and more as my team is out and working with about 350 dealers globally this month, more and more dealers are getting more leads than they ever did before. Customers are searching online. The digital traffic has gone through the roof. And the challenge I think dealers are having now is because their digital track has just exploded and their lead count has exploded. Again, if they don't have a process in place to reach out to those different leads and have a story to invite them into and an event to invite them into, they're going to miss a lot of opportunities. We all know that those digital leads, when they come in, there is a portion that close relatively quickly. They'll close in those first couple of days or first week or so, but then there's a huge percent of those leads that are coming in, or those customers that are just beginning their online process and their research. It could be 30 or 60 days. So to have a process, which Joe touched on earlier, of reaching out, and I use the word farming, all right, reaching out and farming those customers and connecting with those customers on an ongoing basis to lead them towards an appointment. Now, part of what you might need to do with those customers is offer to go to them virtually first. And we've certainly seen that more and more where we have a conversation where we offer a virtual consultation with that customer. And with our virtual events that we're running now, and we're running those in the Caribbean countries, we're running those in India, we're running those in Vietnam and the Philippines, running those in Dubai. With those virtual events, we literally have a conversation with the customer where we basically go through the first half of the selling process virtually, or we offer to. And once we've determined that they have a need, that we have a product that might better suit their needs and potentially in the right budget or price range, then we book that appointment for them to come to the showroom. And so it's been a reframing of the process, but that process works. You see, one of the reasons why so many processes are broken when it comes to digital lead handling is we just want to call and get them in, get them in. Well, again, like Joe said, it's customer focused, it's customer centric. How do we say to the customer, Mr. Customer, allow me to come to you? Why don't we book a virtual appointment? Take 10 or 15 minutes. We can have a conversation. I can share with you some things that may be relevant to you. And then if it makes sense, potentially a visit to our showroom.
and I think the biggest thing I've seen, because you're right, this whole digital marketing world, they're driving leads. The problem is people are not getting to the leads quick enough. Okay. And one of the things I do, I have an intensive, it's a 1 day intensive where in the morning we're doing training and messaging, and then we pick up the phone. And so they bring leads with them. And so they bring their digital leads. And here's what they hear if they've never reached out. You know, I connected with you guys a week and a half ago and I needed tires. So I just went down the street. I wanted to work with you. So the thing about this whole digital world is we have conditioned people for right now. The whole world of digital has made people more in a hurry, and they think because they send something in, they should get something back. And so the quicker people can respond, response time is the single most important thing when it comes to digital marketing. The quicker you can make contact with that person. You know, and I'm doing a lot of training on virtual selling now. And I do all my own selling, okay? and, and in the month of June, I got out 42 formal proposals. So we went into the COVID thing too. And so from February until today, except for 2 meetings, every single sale was a virtual sale. And what I'm seeing is that people act different when they're face to face versus when they're in a virtual meeting. And they shouldn't.
Yeah.
If they have a process, I don't care if I'm selling to you on the phone, through Zoom, or face to face. I'm going to follow my process.
Well,
I
face
think
to face, they are wearing pants.
hopefully.
You know, it's
Yeah, I
funny
mean,
how you mentioned that, people aren't getting back to leads, because in many of our shows, we talk about this. And we have one coming up in the new year called WTF Are You Doing with Your Leads? And we get inundated with leads. When I started selling cars, it was way back. And we literally had rotary dial telephones and we'd stick a pencil in. So when they paged sales line 1, because you had it for 0, or sales call reception, we dive across the desk, pick up the phone, and bang the pencil away. Now we got digital leads come in, and people go, yeah, I can tell by the way the lead is worded, they're not interested. And and I talk about this, that only 20% of the leads in the automotive industry get followed up on. And it
well,
must be
yeah,
the same.
and Jeff said it 100% right. And I'm actually putting together a white paper PDF based on a year's worth of research, because I work for a company out of California that helps dealers with leads and websites. But what I've found with my own personal experience shopping for vehicles, but also from multiple dealers all over North America, is it's that 90% that aren't handled where the opportunity is. The 10% they pick up either way. Like their process works for those 10%, but it's the 90%, to Jeff's point, that either aren't communicated with properly, there is no long-term process, they're missing that opportunity, how they communicate is wrong. There's a lot of different pieces. And this PDF will really go over sort of the good, the bad, and the ugly. But the reality is, vast majority of dealers don't have a process outside of 3 to 5 days. In that 3 to 5 days, they're doing something. It may not be the right thing, but they're doing something. But it's that 30, 60, 90, 120 days where really all the activity and all the opportunity is. And this is something I learned managing in our department over 10 years ago, which hasn't really changed. It's just now there's more tools, but there's still a lack of process that's consistent, that works for the customer.
I would agree with you, Ian. I think, though, it's gotten more complex. All right? It truly has gotten more complex. Now, we can't let it become complicated. It has gotten more complex. The biggest challenge you see, and we have a lot of dealers that actually do a pretty decent job, especially in the first 3 to 5 days. I agree after 5 days, which is, you would know more than me, the percentage of customers that would be of those leads that will close after the 3 to 5 days, but let's just say it's 70% of them. All right. So, but even in that first 3 to 5 days, it's the transition from the virtual or the phone conversation to the showroom presentation and introduction. It's that transition from virtual to showroom. That's that messy part, that messy middle as we talk, and that's where a lot of the opportunity is lost, even in those first 3 to 5 days. So it's putting processes in place that would allow us to have a great conversation with the customer, make an appointment, then have, whether it be if that's with the BDC rep, and then there's a salesperson or a showroom salesperson, I'm working with some dealers right now where they recognize that they've got about one virtual BDC rep or VBDC rep or virtual salesperson, whatever you want to call that position. They've got one for every 4 or 5 showroom sales professionals. And they realize 5 years from now it'll be 2 to 1 virtual per showroom salesperson. So they're putting processes in place, but even now it's that transition point, right, with the customer. Customers say all the time, I hate having come into the dealership and re-explain myself over and over again.
Well,
So
one of the best examples I can share was a dealership that used a BDC and a salesperson in conjunction. And they used them together because they knew the BDC person wasn't perfect, but they're process driven. And they knew the salesman wasn't perfect and they were less process driven, but they're more connected to the customer in theory. So those two working together in a team, which I think is going to be the future of automotive anyway, whether it be a sales manager, a finance manager, a salesperson, or a BDC person, there's going to be a much tighter team relationship in order to move that customer from digital lead the showroom visit or virtual then showroom visit or however that's going to work for each individual customer to sell more vehicles. And the dealers who actually do that well will sell more vehicles because and that's true in every industry. I mean, even in traditional retail, whether it be curbside pickup or online delivery. I mean, it's really about how do I create a better experience for that customer that fits their needs that other retailers aren't doing. They're just not doing it. Right?
And you're right, you can't see that VBDC or BDC as a separate department. One of the reasons there's so many broken BDCs in dealerships is because they're viewed as another department to run. Well, no, they are an integral part of the sales team. So dealers that can marry those together instead of putting another Berlin Wall in the dealership, like the one we have between sales and service, but can actually connect those two and say, we're part of the same team and have that integration, however it's structured, are going to, again, what serves the customer?
Yep.
What's their experience, right?
How do they want to be served? I think I think that whole thing has to be one. It has to be part of your process because that wherever the leads come from, how that lead is handled to get them on the property is key. What is the messaging that takes this person and delivers them to the person on the showroom floor? That's the key. And how quickly can you get to that lead? And never before in the history of the world has response time been more important.
And we've seen that because who's taught us that? Amazon. Oh, I ordered it today, it shows up tomorrow. Right. So it's fueled that. One thing I just want to make sure we chat on briefly today, if you don't mind, gentlemen, because we talked about events and year-end events and promotions. And something that we've been doing a lot of research and building a lot of our IP and training materials and events around, especially our leadership training, is around the concept of retention. All right. I often say that retention is the holy grail of the car business. Right. If you can't keep enough of your current customers, you can't spend enough money to buy business and make up the difference. Right. Now, that statement is true and it's false. It's true in concept, yet the majority of dealers, especially in North America, not so much Australia, not so much Europe, but in North America, they're still buying more than 70% of their new business every single month. All right. And so we focus that, and we always teach dealers, yes, when you do an event or a campaign, and certainly year end is an ideal opportunity to do it because there is a window of time. The calendar is based around it. All business is based around it. The rhythms of life and society are based around that calendar. And you want to have an event of kinds, but multi-layer the event. All right. So you'll do some marketing, whatever marketing works best for your store and your market. Right? But then you want to take a component of your database, whether it's the 12 to 70% of your database that you choose to reach out to on a monthly basis, and you want to engage and have a retention component. Yep. Then you want to layer the conquest marketing and conquest leads on top of the retention. That's what I believe any good business, but especially a good car dealership, needs to look at their business every month and go, okay, here's our target, our goal. What percent is going to be generated from my current book of business, my current portfolio? And then we layer on top, as opposed to just go, how much do I need to spend to hit my target? Right? So that retention component and layering on top of that is how I believe all good dealerships, all industries, but especially the car business need to run.
Well, yeah, when you look at what's going on these days with a lot of new electric car companies coming into the market, there's no extra customers. They're taking those customers from somewhere.
Yep.
And I've seen this in the local market. BMW is a big target for companies like Tesla. Obviously, the reason they're taking those customers is the BMW dealers haven't been proactive enough to say, listen, that person looking at a Model 3 probably was a 3 Series customer. That person looking at a Model Y probably was an X3 customer. So the question is, how are you getting ahead of that? Because that's probably not going to end. You've got companies like Polestar and other ones coming into the market. These companies are competitive to the customer base that you have currently. If you're not paying attention to that customer base, you're going to lose them.
Yeah.
You just will.
In one of my clients, like I said, it's a rent to own tires and wheels franchise, and it operates like a car dealership. Okay, just like it. They want to bring people in, but they got to do collections too. But when I started working with them, I said, "Where are your dead files?" And they go, "What do you mean?" I said, "Where are all the files of everybody who's ever bought from you?" Well, we could probably find them. I went, "Find them." And I made them bring them to the training. And part of our calls were from people that they hadn't seen or talked to in 5 or more years. And we sold thousands and thousands of dollars worth just by saying, "Hey, John, this is Joe Peachy of such and such. Wanted to reconnect with you. You were such a valued client in the past. What do we have to do to earn back your business?" I mean, it sounded so, and they went, "This isn't going to work." And person after person said, "I always loved you guys, but I moved to Atlanta. Do you have a store in Atlanta?" And it was like, that's become part of their strategy now.
Yeah.
This is exactly what Jeff is also talking about.
100%. I mean, when you look at maintaining a customer base, whether it be sales or service, it's obviously a lot less expensive to keep the customers you had versus hoping to conquest customers that you haven't had yet. I'm not saying you shouldn't do both, but what's amazing is that. Yeah.
It is easier to write a check than to fix a broken process. That's a reality that every business, including our own businesses, need to look at, right? It is easier to do that. And that's not a long-term solution, at least not with the way the market's going, all the major changes that are going to hit the industry in the next 5 years, probably more than the last 50 years. So we need to be buttoned down the processes, that are going to be customer centric, but that are scalable, replicable, so we can have process driven success. And then we build the skills of our team so they're layering their personality skills on top of the process, not the other way around.
Well, there was an interesting announcement last Friday. I don't know if you heard about it, but BlackBerry has made a deal with Amazon Web Services to create a secure platform for automotive manufacturers to communicate directly with customers in the cars with the technology on board cars. Mm-hmm. So basically what that signals to me is that the manufacturer is saying, okay, who's taking care of my customers? So I'm going to start doing that, but more importantly, they're also going to start selling services directly through this platform to customers in their car, much like Amazon does. So the thing that was interesting to me about it was clearly there's going to be more of a top-down, this is how we want you to handle it. And not only that, it's going to be backed up with global data because it's going to be a global platform. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that data, which they said multiple times on the show, is owned by the manufacturer because they make the car. So the question there then becomes, as a dealer, what am I doing to get ahead of that so that way at least I'm in the game, right? Because what the manufacturer is going to do, who knows? It was very interesting.
Well, something, we've had some very lively discussion. Jeff, you certainly touched on something very important there. And if you get at a dealership or a Tyler dealership, Ford car dealership, furniture dealer, whatever you want, there's always those salespeople that continually knock it out of the park. And those are the people that have clientele and they repeat and referral business, period. Service advisors. And I have to say, one of the people that's viewing today, Stephen Granger, he brought something up on our discussion a week ago Friday about just the good, the bad, and the ugly, and our friends. And he said, "Hey, there's a lot of good about the business, and there really is. And again, dealers that constantly bring customers in are doing very well." And gentlemen, thank you so much for your input. Unfortunately, Brian couldn't make it back, but we'll invite him back. Next week, next Monday, we got another great show that's going to be here. We're quite excited. It's our special events and it's our thanking your team at the end of the year or whenever, which is the best practices for dealers. And we have Melanie Borden from Celebrity Motors in the New York area. Also, Gail Rubenstein from Retail Resilient, which is a Facebook marketing thing that she's created, also from the greater New York, Philadelphia area. Pamela Pearson joining us from Sentes Auto Group. And again, my favorite term, that sprawling metropolis of Penticton, British Columbia, Canada, not Saskatchewan. And Rob Ruth from Bob Ruth Ford, again, out in that Pennsylvania, New York area. So that'll be next week, and that should be a quite exciting show. So please tune in for that. Again, we have a new way, and keeps changing the slide on me. We have a new format for our vendors show. It's going to be Vendor Speak Product Showcase. We're building on that right now, and where we're going to have 3 products per show, 3 people on the show on our Fridays, and they'll be presenting their specific area. So if it's going to be, web services, it'll be 3 web people. If it's going to be training, it'll be 3 training people, and that's there to show their thing, and they'll give us 10 minutes of their time and keep it lively and exciting. So please stay tuned for that.
And lastly, Jeff, we have our month-end show. It's new now for Vendor Speak at the end of each month, which is basically an open show for anyone who wants to just talk about automotive and products and services.
Yeah, we call it
from,
Ian and Jeff and Friends.
Go ahead.
It's called Ian and Jeff and Friends.
Yeah. So any final thoughts from any guests or any attendees?
That was a good show this morning, gentlemen. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me on. And my podcast is free. There's no upsell on it. It's Sales Edge, one word. It's on all the podcast hosts, and it's all about sales, marketing, business development. I think you get a lot out of it.
Fantastic.
And
Appreciate the opportunity.
No, thank you. We appreciate you taking your time. We know it's everybody's busy, and this is just something that everybody gets to connect and new people. I mean, my gosh, we got Joe in Florida talking to Jeff in BC, and I know that probably next time when we can all travel, Jeff will bring the Jeff show into Orlando or Miami, and boy, he'll reach out to Joe or whatever. So
yeah, we'll have coffee.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Have yourself a great week.
Sorry, Ian?
Have yourself a great week. Any final thoughts, Jeff?
No, thank you guys. What a great show and really enjoyable. We're having a lot of fun doing this, and we appreciate our loyal tune-inners for the live show. Certainly John and Barry, and now Stephen, I see that, and some other people, Bill and
Emma was on, and a bunch of other people. Yeah,
exactly. So we're going to go now. Thank you all so much. Have a great day. Stay safe, and good luck.
Thank you.
Happy
Take care.